right, we are going to talk about the power of curiosity. This is something I talk about on a daily basis with my clients, with the people that I work with my team, the people that I do coaching and consulting with. And curiosity is one of our superpowers, I think. And most people think that they're open-minded because they listen. They nod, they let others finish before they speak. But listening isn't curiosity. And openness isn't the same thing as actively wondering and contemplating. Curiosity isn't a personality trait, and it's not something that you either have or you don't have. It's not this all or nothing, one or the other, you're born with it or you're not. Curiosity is a practice. It's a discipline that we have to engage with on a regular basis. And most of us stopped practicing it somewhere around the time that we decided we already knew enough. I tell people on a regular basis, let's be Curious George, the monkey. Let's sit and get into things and get into the weeds and play around and try new things. And let's just be curious. And it might be messy, but that's okay. Because the question isn't, are you smart enough? The question is, are you curious enough? And are you going to do anything about it? Curiosity is not soft. It's not a nice to have. It's not this thing that you do when you have extra time. When you look at curiosity in the research on high-performing leaders, curiosity consistently predicts several things. It consistently predicts better decision-making under ambiguity. It consistently predicts higher creative output, stronger relationships, and increased trust amongst team members and leaders, and faster learning curves in new roles. It also predicts something else that's not talked about as much: resilience. Now, we see resilience all the time right now. It's a bit of a buzzword about, developing resilience and being resilient and in the media and all of those types of things. But when we look at resilience and curiosity, when we are genuinely curious about a problem, we don't experience the problem as this threat anymore. We don't experience it and go, oh crap, what now? We don't go into this fight, flight, freeze, fawn space. When we're genuinely curious about something, we start experiencing that problem and that issue purely as information. It's not a threat anymore. It's not scary. It's like, okay, I wonder what's going on here. And when we take that shift from threat to information, it changes how we respond. We don't get our backs up. We don't become defensive or reactive. We can kind of sit back, soak, observe, and be a little bit more contemplative and observe things differently and be curious about what's happening there. And so when we think about curiosity really is the difference between being consumed by a problem and being interested in solving it. Two different things, right? Consumed is this experience where in our whole system, it's just overpowering, versus interested is this an idea of being engaged and leaning in and trying to figure out what's actually happening here. And so curiosity is not the same as just wanting answers. Most of us want answers. When we have answers, it brings resolution. It helps us feel more in control. It helps us feel more confident because we're like, oh, okay, I know what's happening here. But that is not curiosity. Curiosity is very different. It's this ability to have a sustained tolerance for not knowing. And at the same time, being combined with this genuine interest in what might be true or what might be happening here. And when we look at curiosity, it really shows up in an intersection of multiple different things. So it shows up with cognitive humility, which is this idea of a willingness to be wrong. We are not set on, I have to know, I have to be right. If I'm not right, it means something, about me. There's this humility of I can learn and I can explore and I can make mistakes. And it's this idea of engaging with material, with content, with people, knowing that you might be wrong and it's actually okay if you are wrong. There's this intellectual kind of engagement that happens where there's this active interest in knowing more and wanting to get deeper and wanting to explore the content, the person, the relationship, the dynamics, whatever it is that you're being curious about. One of the hard ones for a lot of us is this emotional regulation. And emotional regulation with curiosity is our ability to sit with the unknown and sit with the uncertainty without caving in and collapsing on ourselves and going, oh my goodness, if I don't know, if I'm not, that means I'm not okay, or that means that there's something wrong with me, or I'm not smart enough, or whatever those types of emotions may trigger in us. And so it's this ability to sit in the uncomfortableness of the unknown and the uncertainty and know that we're okay in the middle of it and there's nothing wrong with us and we can just play here in this area. And this is also where this intersection of kind of behavior shows up. Are we open with our behavior? Are we willing to follow this line of curiosity, this line of questioning, even when it leads somewhere uncomfortable? This shows up a lot for those of us who are on the receiving end of feedback or we want feedback. If we are leaders, oftentimes we don't necessarily get constructive feedback. People will just say, yep, no, everything's good, and they will kind of appease us. However, when we're genuinely curious with our team about how we can show up differently or how we can lead differently or lead more in a way that works with each team member, we have to be willing to be curious, right? We have to be willing to shift our framework. We have to be willing to be emotionally regulated, even when we may hear things that we may not like. And then on top of that, is our behavior going to shift in response? Even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it feels kind of discombobulating and new for us, and we're not really sure what this looks like or how to do this because this might be really new. And that's okay, right? But this is where that behavioral piece really shows up, is how are we going to do things differently now that we have been curious and we've discovered information that maybe we didn't know before, right? So when we think about the behavioral piece and, finding out all this information and finding out these ideas or constructs or frameworks, and now our behavior has to change, that's where most of us stop and pause, because changing our behavior is hard. It feels uncomfortable, and it often pushes us outside of our comfort zone. And so when we pause there, we tend to back things up. And instead of being curious, we ask questions that, we already know the answer to, right? We may look like we're being curious, but really we're sitting in this place of being confident and comfortable because we already know what the answers are. We explore these ideas that confirm what we already believe. It's this confirmation bias. We call it curiosity, but in these moments, it's actually just validation seeking with better vocabulary. So really, that's not curiosity at all, because we're not willing to be uncomfortable. But when we think about real curiosity, it's much more demanding than that comfortability. It's hard work because it often reveals things about ourselves that maybe we weren't expecting, or we were not, weren't sure we're going to come to the surface or come out in this type of environment. And so it's important that in these moments, we pause and we reflect and we check in with ourselves to go hey, am I okay to go here in this time and space? Right? And that's okay. That's part of the curiosity journey and part of the curiosity practice and discipline of making this part of your regular life. And so when I think about what curiosity is not, I've had conversations with leaders around curiosity and being more curious with their team to kind of help them understand what's going on, and why people are showing up certain ways or behaving certain ways, or what's happening with some of the dynamics. And there's this idea that curiosity is just asking a lot of questions and seeming engaged but not really caring about the answers. That's not curiosity. That's just asking a lot of questions to appear one way, but not actually do anything with it. Or collecting information without actually being willing to change your thinking or your framework or things like that. Sometimes people think that it's being interested in everything, but superficially, and not actually diving deeper, right? We're content with kind of that surface level conversation, surface level answers. That's also not curiosity. When we are comfortable in asking the questions, I would say that maybe we need to lean in a little bit more, because that might not actually be us being in a curious space and willing to rework some things. So sit with that. I could be wrong on that one, but it's just something that, as I think about curiosity and how curiosity shows up in my own life, I often, when I'm genuinely curious, it means that something internally for me changes, whether that's my thinking, my attitude, my behaviors, my emotions, my framework. Something changes because I've learned new information I didn't know before. It doesn't mean that, we never come to a place of certainty, or we never come to a decision, or we just keep asking questions and questions and questions without action. Curiosity is important, but so is follow through, and so is behavior change, and so is eventually coming to the solution that we need, or the deliverables, or whatever it is that we're trying to get towards. There needs to also be a purpose behind it, especially as we lead teams and lead ourselves. Curiosity for curiosity's sake, there is a space for that, absolutely. But within our teams and within our workplaces, often there needs to actually be a purpose, because otherwise people feel like we're just going in circles, and that can feel really frustrating for us as leaders and for us as team members, because we're like, what is the point of this? Right? It's this idea of having a productive curiosity, which is this kind of curiosity that brings about new insight and drives and develops better choices or healthier choices, versus performative curiosity. That's this kind of curiosity that just kind of looks like you're being open-minded and asking questions, but really you're just trying to appear a certain way to appease this impression that you want other people to have. And that's really not what we're going for. We are going for, mental, emotional, behavioral change and healthy leadership. We're not working on this managing impressions and being performative. That's really not helpful. When we look at this productive curiosity, that one builds capacity, whereas the performative curiosity just burns and wastes time, right? The goal isn't to ask more questions. It's to become genuinely interested in the answers, especially the ones that challenge what you think you already know. Are you going in with a willingness for your mind to be changed? So when I think about what curiosity actually looks like in real-time practice, right? I think about how it shows up in meetings with my team, or clients, or friends, or my business coach, or whoever it is in my life. And when I think about curiosity, there's kind of some consistent behaviors or practices that happen. And one of them is that when you're talking, the other person pauses before they respond, because they're actually processing what you're saying. They're not just waiting to talk and just fill in the blank because, they have this idea in their head and they're like, well, no, I just need to say it. They're actually sitting and pausing and reflecting on what you're saying as they're processing and reworking things as you're talking, So this way they can ask more kind of insightful questions or more curious questions. The other thing that happens is sometimes people will change their position on topics or ideas or theories or whatever it is when they are presented with better information or different information. And people change their positions without a cost to their ego, right? It doesn't mean anything about them of like, oh, well, if I didn't know this before, then it means that I'm not good enough or I'm not smart enough or I'm not fill in the blank. It just means that, oh, I can change and I can have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. People will often seek out perspectives that challenge their own, not just validate what they already think or what they already believe. If you think about the people that you follow on social media or the people that you listen to, podcasts, news, things like that, are you listening to multiple sides of the story? Because there's not just one side, there's not just two sides, there's multiple sides to every story. And so are you listening to people who may have a different perspective that might challenge yours instead of just confirming what you already think you know, right? There's this confirmation bias that happens where we think we know something and so we only do those things, and then lo and behold, it turns out that we're right. Well, that's actually not helpful, and that's not a way to grow or to develop ourselves as individuals, as employees, as team members, as bosses, as leaders, as managers, as therapists. It doesn't matter. It's actually just not helpful straight around, like right around the block. And so, I think about a conversation I had with a friend of mine the other night, and both of us have been working on this somatic experiencing practitioner certification for the last 3 years. And so we were just sitting and chatting about our experiences doing our advanced level. We both did it roughly about a week apart. And in our conversation, one of the things that I noticed was that as I was sharing, parts of my experience, he would ask follow-up questions that helped me and him go deeper in the conversation. Not just broader, but like deeper into the nuance and what's happening and what was this like and what was this experience. And so there was a real curiosity that showed up in these conversations where as we continued to explore and kind of share our experiences, there was such a deep depth and connection that came because there was genuine engagement and curiosity in these conversations. And so when I think about some of the situations that I've been in as a leader, when I have been under pressure and under stress and my curiosity has been absent, or I have suppressed it, or I've just kind of put it to the side, I have made decisions that have been, made with incomplete information, but I have been so focused on the specific thing in front of me that decision has stayed that way, and I didn't rework it when I really should have, right? The feedback that I've gotten has been filtered before it even lands because I'm only looking for specific pieces of information, right? And it's when this happens, when I've been in this space of trying to just get crap done, I haven't been learning new things. I haven't been able to explore, and I've mistaken efficiency for mastery, and they're not the same thing. And so what I've noticed in myself and others is that when we are under pressure, curiosity is usually the first thing to go. And so when stakes are high and time is short, we default to what we already know. We execute, we push, we deliver, we focus on the goal, and we stop asking questions. And that is what I have discovered and continue to discover is when the questions actually matter most. And so when I think about high performers and leaders, like, we are trained to be competent. We are trained to have answers. We are trained to move quickly and decisively. And we normalize this experience of knowing more than the people around us, of having formed opinions before a conversation ends, of treating ambiguity as a problem to be eliminated, not something to be explored. And so what happens when we're in this space is we confuse speed with being insightful. or confidence with accuracy, and having a point of view with having the right point of view. And that is not always true. But by the time the curiosity is gone, we don't even notice that it's missing because we're so focused on the efficiency and just getting those things done because we are under stress and under pressure. And so we don't notice because the output is still happening, but the quality of thinking and the depth of it and the range and the diversity of the thinking has actually significantly narrowed. And that narrowing has a cost that doesn't show up right away. It shows up in the decisions made without enough information. It shows up in the relationships that never actually really deepen. They stay surface level. It shows up in the opportunities that were never even really seen. And so when I think about curiosity and how to assess kind of our current level of curiosity, it's more about recognizing patterns and asking yourself, like, how do you think? How do we engage? How do we respond? Cognitively, when was the last time that we genuinely changed our mind about something? Do we seek out things that challenge our perspective or just confirm it? Relationally, do we ask questions in conversations or mostly just make statements? Are we curious about the people around us and not just what they could do, but what they actually think or what they actually believe? When people disagree with us or give us feedback, do we get curious or do we get defensive and reactive? Behaviorally, are we exploring ideas and things outside of our regular domain, or are we staying within what we already know? Are we staying comfortable, or are we willing to be uncomfortable, even if it's inconvenient for us? And when we think about learning, is it really intentional or is it passive and kind of just in the background? And so when we think about what curiosity actually does, right? Curious teams surface problems significantly earlier when they're still solvable. They will often generate solutions that wouldn't necessarily emerge in a room full of people sitting in a performative space. It will build trust because people feel seen and not managed. And it's a safe place to fail because people are coming in with a curious space, not a threatened space. And people are able to adapt faster because they're not defending this fixed idea, this fixed version of reality. There's room for things to grow and change and evolve. And so when we think about curiosity, it's not just personal development, it's actually organizational risk management. A team that can't ask hard questions will eventually have hard questions asked of them. And so curiosity shouldn't be something you turn on for brainstorming sessions and professional development days. It should be the baseline in your organization, in your team, in your dynamics. The minimum operating condition for effective thinking, leadership, and growth. And so the real question, and if this is one thing that you need to take away from today, is the real question isn't, are you smart enough to succeed? It's, are you curious enough to keep getting better, especially when you're already good enough to get by?